the Eastpointe City Council on Tuesday, April the 3rd at 7 p.m. Please rise for the invocation given by Councilwoman Sarah Lucido. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, we thank you for the many gifts you have given us. Please help us all to use the talents and treasures we possess to the benefit of our community. Let us come together to find solutions that benefit the residents of Eastpointe. Help us work together towards the same goals, even if we travel down different paths. It is in your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico. Here. Councilmember Lucido.
Here.
Councilmember Kleinfeld. Here. Councilmember Owens.
Here.
Mayor Pixley.
Here. Well, the next item is the approval of the agenda. Was there something else somebody wanted to add?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to change item E, city manager contract, to interim city manager proposal. And I don't know if you guys maybe add item F, discussion on city manager search.
Sure. I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes.
And then if we could add Ms. Lintz's items, the minutes for the regular meeting minutes for March 27th and special meeting minutes for March 30th.
Support?
Put that under approval of minutes.
Moved and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Yes.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes. Anything else? Then we move on to the hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard? Mr. Creech?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Harvey Creech, resident of Eastpointe. A few things I'd like to talk about is especially, I know last week I more or less discussed our our sidewalks. Well, I discussed our streets a little bit. We got problems. We got some big holes out there. Right there on Forest and Hayes alone. I was out there this morning. Somebody put up two little round cones about this big, and there's no street, or there's street. If somebody hits one of those holes at night, we're in real trouble. I don't know if you need to put some barricades up on that one or not. I don't know if there's any other ones in the street that bad, or in the city that bad. This one is a bad one. And now when I come around the corner, I just about ran right into it. If a guy hits it on a motorcycle, you might as well just forget that, because the city won't own anything. And then they're talking about the sidewalks. Please, people, before you even think about having your sidewalks done, maybe you want to contact somebody and either have them lifted or lowered or something, because a lot of those sidewalks out there aren't that bad. They're not cracked. They're just up or down. Those can be fixed without replacing them, and it's going to cost a lot of money. Watch out, see if you can get a hold of some contractors or anything in retrospect when you look at your look at your sidewalks. And the fountain out in front, Mayor, I see we were talking about putting another fountain out in the back. What are we going to do with this one out here? Make a big flower pot out of it? It definitely needs some repair already. It's broke out in the front. I don't know what you really want to do with it, but maybe we could get some service work done to it. And please, Joe, you were talking last time you were talking about street sweeping. Is there any way we can get an agenda of which streets and when you're going to sweep them? Because that's the only way people are going to keep the cars off the streets. Because last time we had it the same way. The city would lent the streets that they were going to sweep on that day, when everybody would keep their cars off. Because I was looking at it a couple of days ago, and I swept out in front of my house. Please, as quick as we can get it done, because I watched what went in those storm drains today. It was unbelievable. It is actually pathetic. The quicker we get that going, the better off we're going to be. And I say, if you can come up with an agenda, I know I will, and everybody else would appreciate it. Put out how you're going to do it. And caulking of the parking lots, please get that done. as early as you can. I was over, matter of fact, I discussed this with Mr. Pangori, the one out here in the back, and he took a look at it. He said there's no crack, but by the time we got done, he said, now you can tell him it will get fixed because it already broke out. But this rain running in, I wish, I hope, I'm not gonna beg anymore. I'm not gonna plead anymore. Go take a look at the rear parking lot that's less than 3 years old. I wanted it tore out when he first put it in. It is a mess. It won't last another 2 or 3 years. But I was just a resident looking. I was there the weekend they put that parking lot in. It was wrong then, and it's really wrong now. And I know we're going to end up suing that contractor because we still got a lot of repairs to make on that, and they're walking away from it. The more we walk away on these jobs from these contractors and let them exposing the rest of the stuff, we're in trouble. Like I said before, too, and I want to discuss this one. That path at Spindler, I want it fixed.
You have
I didn't-
30
I didn't-
seconds.
I didn't see a contract on it, and I don't think I'm ever going to see a contract on it, but there should be at least a 2-year warranty on that walk path. I haven't seen one thing done to it, and I've been in here time after time after time. And I'm going to keep coming back, and I'm going to get some more residents to keep coming back. If we can't do for ourselves what you want to do to the residents anymore, something's got to be done.
Your time is up, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Creech. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Seeing none, the first hearing of the public is closed. We'll go on to approval of the minutes, and the first item is from the meeting of 3/27. Do we have a motion, please?
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of March 27th.
Support.
Move and support. Any corrections? Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
And the second meeting is from March 30th. Do we have a motion, please?
Sure. Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve the special meeting minutes of March 30th.
Support.
Move and support. Any corrections? I just had one. I didn't know Mr. Mr. Albrecht,
Yes.
because you took the minutes. Does your name have to be on the bottom of that where it says as well as the clerk?
It doesn't have to be, but it could if someone wanted to add
Because
it.
Mr. Altimus wasn't there. That was the only reason why I thought maybe.
It's something that the maker of the motion wanted to add it.
It would just make it a little bit more accurate. All right. With that, would you accept that?
Sure.
All right. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
We have no scheduled hearings, no unfinished business. We'll go on to reports from administration. We'll start with our acting city manager, Mr. Marucci.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. A couple items to bring your attention. One is, first one is simply a reminder that compost curbside pickup began last Monday and will continue till, we normally stop the first week of December, so though the weather doesn't show it, we are collecting at the curb. Secondly, there's a sign in the lobby here. We are accepting applications for people to serve on boards and commissions, so if you know people or if you're hearing my voice or watching the meeting, and you're so inclined, please volunteer for a board and commission. We have applications at the city manager's office. We can, if you can't come in, we can mail it to you. We can email it to you. So that way we have a pool of people. We always seem to be at a shortage, as all cities are this day and age. Thirdly, we had talked about last fall a tour of city buildings and parks. The weather probably will be nice in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. Last time that the council did this, it was done on a Friday. If I circulate some dates beginning 2 or 3 weeks out, if you can look at your calendars, Friday was what you did last time. My belief is you'll probably want to do it again on a Friday. Next item, BSNA training. Again, we'd put that off for a while. I'll circulate some dates for BSNA training. Friday's probably the best time because all of you have to be on a computer. One thing I want to talk to or at least I'll mention to the city attorney is, I'm familiar with the Open Meetings Act, and it talks about when council convenes in a quorum for the purpose of making a decision, it has to be open to the public. I don't believe there are going to be any decisions made on the day of the training, but we're closed on a Friday, and I think it gives a bad appearance if 5 members of council are together in a room. So we'll probably have to make arrangements to open the door. I mean, we can do that, but just something to keep in mind. I just think it's bad for the 5 of you to be together. A couple. Well, again, hey, listen, let's leave if it's done in the open, then people could say you had the ability to come, the doors are open, and if you wanted to hear the discussion, we welcome that you would have come to the meeting versus we were behind closed doors, and just trust us. We don't want to have to say trust us to people. With respect to street sweeping, Mr. Creech, we do put out signs in advance of the street sweeping in the neighborhoods that we're doing. I don't know the exact schedule, but we do put out signs in that neighborhood a day or two in advance. And I haven't asked about the cooperation, but I did ask about the street sweeping, and it's going very, very slowly. We reach a pile of leaves in people's houses that are foot deep at the curb line. So we only have about a quarter of the city done, and we've been sweeping for, I want to say, approximately 7 working days. So it's going very, very slowly. With respect to joint crack sealing, we will be doing that in September, and the parking lots will be done in September that need to be the downtown library lot, the lot at Memorial Field, the Spindler, any other parking lot that's necessary. Hopefully this one doesn't need it. I have not seen anything. I walk it every day. But either way, we'll be joint crack sealing. When we do the streets, we'll be doing the parking lots. So, and that'll happen before the winter, obviously. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Marucci?
Regarding the BSNA, I haven't brought it up recently because I was putting it on the back burner until we took care of some other business. I spoke to someone at MML, and they also do like really simple phone trainings. So it might be worth looking at if we don't want to do like a full a training how to use it, more just because my concern was knowing what to ask for, knowing what reports it runs and what kind of things, so that it's easy to make requests from administration that aren't time consuming. Because sometimes I just don't know the magic words. So I don't know if council wants him to look for dates right now, or if it might be we could revisit after we, maybe I would think after budget might be a good time to actually sit down and do that. Before then, I think there's just too much on our plate to really worry about finding a date that works for all of us.
Is that the consensus of council?
Sure.
Then we'll put off the BSNA training until after the budget's adopted.
Is there just like a description of the trainings or something? Even like, I guess, something that, do they have just a brief description of what their training is going to be about? Even that would be.
Yeah, Mr. Blum, you might be more familiar with that, but I don't think there's anything that was like fitting for, meant for like council members. Everything seems to be geared towards people who are using it.
Well, that's fine too, just to be prepared for the training, what questions or.
Yeah, when it first came up, we got a proposal, and it was basically general ledger training, but it was more the hands-on, how do you enter a journal entry, that kind of thing. I actually spoke with the folks from BSNA, and they said they can actually tailor it to whatever our needs are.
Okay.
So the idea was that we would have some general ledger, some accounts payable, maybe even some purchase order, and tailor it towards the reporting aspect and not the doing aspect.
Okay.
But they can work with whatever need we have.
Okay.
And tailor it for us.
So, Mr. Blum, one of the purposes that we fixed the Patriot building was for training. So
Correct.
we could actually do the BSA training over there, could we not?
We just have to set it up with, tables and computers and stuff, but yes, that's what it's designed for.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, anything else for Mr. Marucci? Then let's move on to our finance director, Mr. Blum.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. One of the magic words was line item budget. If you saw the email, it was sent out this afternoon. It's 57 pages, which is why we don't print it, but it is in a PDF format if you want to go through it and print off individual pages, or, if you want to print the whole thing, have fun. But it is out there as an email. The other thing is there's a couple of emails related to the waiver that's on the agenda tonight. I'll explain it a little bit more for the public at that point, and then any questions, but hopefully the emails took care of a lot of the questions. But that's all I have for tonight.
Anything else from Mr. Blum? Move on to Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. I just had one topic to cover this evening. It's the rescheduling of the presentation related to the Department of Justice case. That presentation before the front office in Washington, D.C. has been rescheduled for next Friday, the 13th. It is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I will be traveling to Washington, D.C. To participate in that presentation. Then I will report back to council with regard to how it went and ultimately the decision that is made by the front office. So that's all I had, Madam Mayor. Council's also in receipt of our monthly report for the month of April. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone?
Thank you.
All right, under new business, we have item A, the adoption of resolution 1858, which is a pension underfunding waiver. And Mr. Blum, you're going to explain that a little bit?
Yes. One of the new requirements this year by the state of Michigan is that we had to report our pension and OPEB, which is other post-employment benefit, but our funding for both of those elements. That was reported to the state of Michigan, and based on their criteria, it was determined that our pension is underfunded. Now, the state criteria for pension funding is if it is less than 60% funded, of which ours is 48, and the annual required contribution is more than 10% of our general government revenues, which ours is 11.5%. That qualifies as being underfunded. So we do meet that criteria on the pension. Now, on the OPEB piece, the criteria is if you are less than 40% funded, of which we are 20.5% funded, and if the required contribution is more than 12% of general government revenues, of which ours is only 9%. So we do not, even though we're half the funding of the pension, we do not qualify as underfunded for OPEB while we are underfunded for pension. Again, legislature writing financial law without understanding their finances, apparently. But that is the criteria. Once they've made the determination that you are underfunded, you have the option of submitting a waiver to look at alternative information or additional information where they could make a determination that we're not underfunded. One thing they do not account for is the portion of your pension that is tied in with your enterprise funds, which in our case would be the water sewer fund. And rubbish is enterprise, but they don't have any pension liability. They do not allow us to add in the enterprise fund revenue, or our contribution would be about 7%. But they do allow us to back out the liability portion. Unfortunately, backing that out only drops our required contribution from 11.5% down to 10.5%, so we're still underfunded from the state criteria. There are other things that we can add in, which is in the waiver that was, that once council authorizes me to submit it, will be submitted to them, including all of the various pension changes we've made over the past few contracts, with closing it for certain groups and reducing the pension multiplier for all of the groups. That's probably the biggest one. The other one is just by moving to MERS. When it was local, the underfunded pension was always spread over 30 years, and it never changed. With MERS, they started us at 26 years, and they've dropped it 1 year every year until we get down to basically zero. So they're shrinking the time frame of when you have to fund the underfunding. That will actually help us, or should help us, with the state, that we are on effectively a payment plan. We're currently at 22 years to pay for the underfunding.
Can you explain that one more time? This last part, what 22 years was the last thing you said?
Right now, we have an underfunded amount.
Yep.
MERS has our annual payment based on taking 22 years to pay that off. Basically, it's a loan, if you will. Think of it as a mortgage, and every year your mortgage shrinks. Unfortunately, this one, the mortgage payment goes up and down depending on how your market's doing. But we are currently at 22 years, and every year it will drop by one.
So then we'll have to, it's because we're getting more funded, or?
Well,
We don't have anybody
Because-
else in pension.
in
Oh,
theory,
okay.
yeah. I mean,
Oh, okay, yeah.
if there's any pension changes, they started over at 25, and that individual
Okay.
change will then tail down. But what we transferred into MERS
Okay.
will be paid off or fully funded. It's not paid off, it's fully funded within 22 years.
Okay.
And as long as the market does well, that's fine. If the market doesn't do so well, we're gonna have some huge payments coming up. But that is part of the deal with being with MERS, is they do not allow this to just continually stretch out of 30 years, 30 years, 30 years.
Okay.
And Mr. Blum, do you also want to explain about OPEB and how people are living longer and longer?
Well, yeah, that actually affects both pension and OPEB, but one of the changes that MERS instituted with the last actuarial report is the new death tables, as they call them, where people are living significantly longer. When pensions and retiree health care started, the average lifespan was in the low 70s. It is now 81 point something years for males and 84 point something years for females. And that table is already 3 years old that they just instituted. So, yeah, we got good health care and long life, and it's expensive.
And we actually have some of our retirees in their 90s, and there's one in 100. So,
We have one that's 102. And,
But who's
yeah,
counting?
we have quite a few in their 90s, so
so they've been collecting a pension for a long
For a
time.
few years, yeah.
quite a few years.
So then, and then in this waiver, you said that by 2028, though, we will hit that 60% mark then?
That's
Is what
based on
that
the MERS
2028
projections. Yeah, they have a projection that takes us out from where we're at till we're 100% funded. And I actually, it's a 2026 on the MERS report, but I'm putting a little cushion in there,
Okay.
so.
And what about that 10% of our general fund? Are we gonna be below that too?
Probably not, but once we get 60, then we're not a problem as far as the state's concerned. So that's all they want to know is when we're going to get to the 60% funded.
Okay.
And any good pension fund is considered well-funded at 80%. But apparently the state's okay at 60, so.
Okay.
All right, so we
But it
need,
does take council action before I can submit it. That's why it's on the agenda for tonight, and it's due by the 16th of April.
Now, what does this waiver do?
It goes to the state treasury, they'll review it, and they'll either accept it and call us not underfunded, or they'll reject it and we'll still be underfunded. Now, if they do reject it and we're still in an underfunded status, there's a municipal stability board that's part of the legislation that hasn't even been created, isn't meeting till May, nobody knows who's gonna be on it, and they still have to create all the rules behind this. So even if they reject it, it'll be a year from now, we'll be dealing with them on a corrective action plan.
Now, if they don't reject it, explain to me.
And we're good for another year, and they'll quit bugging us.
I
Okay.
think they just trust that our pension is funded well enough for their standards.
Well enough for the legislature.
Because this whole process is brand new as of last year. Nothing at all like this
No, it's brand
existed
new.
before that, right?
Correct.
there's a little bit of advantage to us also, because when all these local communities send in all this information to the treasurer, then we have a little bit more access to say, this is what's happening as a result of decreasing your revenue sharing.
Sure.
So this is a little bit of an advantage to us, even though it makes us look all really.
Yeah. 'Cause my first reaction was, we're 48% funded. Of course we're underfunded. I don't care, but then it's like, well, what's the impact if I don't do the waiver? And it's like, when I gotta do corrective action plans for the state, forget it. I'll do the waiver and get them off my back.
Yeah, no matter what, it's better to do the waiver because then it gives us the ability to determine our own way to handle it.
Right.
So it just ties our hands.
And we've already taken so many steps to control
Yeah.
those costs, so. But there's a lot of people a lot of local communities that have not, and all of a sudden, it just seems like they're becoming more and more aware of their unfunded liabilities, so.
Yeah, and
It was just way back in 2008 that we had to do something, so we took it on.
Well, the initial report was 110 communities out of 489. Well, that's only about half of the communities that are reported at this point. So you're talking, almost 25% of those that have reported are underfunded.
And for years, we've been going back to the legislature and saying, this is one of the things that's really affecting all the local governments, and they would come back to us and say, there isn't anyone that's reporting it like you are. So finally, we're getting to the point where people have to report it.
Yep.
And a large portion of the credit working with this and developing this system with the treasurer through MML has been Brandon Fournier has really worked on this, and it's because of their legal office and the ability to work with so many of the labor groups that
Yeah.
they've gained this knowledge and are working with it.
And we shared a lot of information while he was on the task force because we were doing the negotiations at the time, so.
So it was, this was one of the breakout sessions at MML, and I found it really informative, particularly about the legal issues that have gone to court and the weighting of some of the court decisions that are coming up, so. Anyway, we need a motion.
1 second. I want to ask you another question about, now you said that we were underfunded for the pension, but we were also underfunded for the OPEB as well, correct?
Not from the state criteria, we're not.
But to your,
Oh, we are. We're only 20.5% funded on the OPEB, but because the annual required contribution is only 9% of governmental revenues, we are not technically underfunded from a state statutory standpoint.
not from the state statutory, but from your,
Oh, we're grossly underfunded, yes.
so what do we do about that? That's what I want to, is no waiver or anything? What are we going to do about that?
Yeah, we don't have to do a waiver to get the state out of here. The biggest thing is just make sure we continue to make the contributions that the actuary says is appropriate to fund it. As long as we make those, the market does what it's supposed to, people live the length of time the actuaries think they're going to live, then it slowly builds and will fund itself.
Okay. Thank you.
So we need a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to adopt resolution number 1858, pension underfunding waiver, and authorize the finance director to execute all necessary documents related to this pension underfunding waiver application.
Support.
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Item B is the adoption of resolution number 1859, which is a transfer of control pursuant to the Metro Act permit issued to Horizon Telecom. We'll listen to that ring. Do we have any questions? Mr. Marucci, did you handle this?
No, the Assistant City Manager, Randy Altonis, did.
If you have any questions, then I guess Randy is the one that can answer it.
Well, if I'm,
Yes.
oh, okay, you go ahead.
Well, I guess my question was, when you have an existing contract transferred to another company, do they have to rebid since it's a whole different?
This isn't a contract. Basically, this is a permit issue that has been put in place by the state that goes back to 2003, I think, when it was initiated. They have to come to us to petition to get a permit to work in our right-of-way. Then we send all the information to the state of Michigan. In this case, what they're doing is there's a transfer, if I understand, Mr. Albright had to get into this because we've never done one of these before, but it looks like a parent company is being bought out, and the company of Horizon is still a division of that who will be doing the work. So all they're doing is transferring this permit to this, the name only, into the new name, because by the Metro Act rules through the state, they have to do that. So it's not us bidding anything, it's just a issued permit that we're allowing them to work.
I spoke with the legal representative for the company, and he informed me that he had asked if this was something that actually required city council approval, because he had said some of the other municipalities that he was dealing with, they just did it administratively, and I said that no, it would need to go in front of the council for a resolution.
Because we approved the initial one.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I felt the same way. I thought council should approve the transfer of it.
I don't know what possible problem we'd probably have anyway. I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's, even talking to him, it's complicated. It's one of those complicated transfer, buyout, something else going on with it. And I said, okay,
I
just
swear it
give me
happens every month.
the
every
head
year.
company and who's left.
Okay, so can we get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 1859, approving the transfer of indirect control of the Metro Act permit approved by the City of Eastpointe from Horizon Telecom to NovaCap TMTV LP, and authorize the acting city manager to execute all necessary documents related to the resolution.
Support.
Move to support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Our next item is the appointment to the Eastpointe Housing Authority, and this is a reappointment. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion to confirm the acting city manager's reappointment of Leo Lalonde with the term to expire October 1st, 2022, and to the Eastpointe Housing Authority.
Support.
Move to support. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
And our next item is a presentation of the acting city manager's proposed 2018-2019 budget. So, Mr. Marucci, I guess you would be on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of council, you received last week the proposed budget for the 2018-2019 year. As always, obviously, the year begins on July 1 and ends on June 30th. A summary of the budget is that for the general fund, the total revenues are estimated to be $23,392,441. Appropriations in the exact same amount, obviously, of $23,392,441. The proposed millage rates for the upcoming year for general operating are 18.9973. For the library fund, 0.8781. For the library, 0.9947. For the Chapter 20 drains, 8.120. For a total millage rate of 28.9901 per thousand of taxable valuation. In addition to that, the Eastpointe Downtown Development Authority levies its own separate millage as it's allowed to under Public Act 197. And the proposed millage rate for the Eastpointe DDA is 1.9571 mils. The funds for the revenues for the other funds is estimated to be $34,242,430,000. And appropriations for those other funds is $29,490,761. So revenue, the combined revenue of other funds and the general fund are estimated to be $57,634,871, and expenditures $52,883,208. Special thanks goes to the two people who are key to this every year, in addition to all the department heads. But Randy Blum and Randy Altimus tow most of the weight on this. So it's acknowledged in here, it's acknowledged on the budget award, thankfully, and this is just the proposed. There'll be lots of work between now and the adoption date at the second meeting in June. We have two dates that are proposed. I believe it's May 8th and 9th for review of the budget by the council with the department heads. Both of those workshops will begin, or I think we call them special meetings here, at 6:30. I believe in the past we had 1 year, but we've always set two aside, so we'll determine it as we go. I ask if you have any questions that I guess are far-reaching that may take more than a simple yes or no or a sentence or two. If you could get those to us ahead of time, that way either one of the two Randys or myself can address it. We'll then share the question. and the, obviously, answer with all 5 of you, so that way, in case someone else has the same question.
Sorry to interrupt.
May 8th is the election,
Oh. Okay,
so we're not meeting May 8th, I can guarantee you.
and that's it. So we'll have to.
Not in here anyway, so,
Okay.
Be very busy. That
yeah.
I guess we could always shift it to a different location, and maybe a good use of the Patriot Building,
No.
just push it a day
No.
back.
but,
What,
so we'll
just
go
do it
Wednesday, the
Polling
9th, and the
stations
10th?
at the
9th and 10th?
Oh, there's, okay. Which would be a Wednesday and a Thursday?
Can you do the 9th? Will you be recovered?
No, not recovered, but yes, we can do it.
Next week.
8th is gonna be, usually goes into May 9th, but that's okay, at least the room will be back and available, but this room is the AV board, so
It's
we
your AV
cannot
board,
use it.
that's right, okay. You snuck a special election in on us this
I
year.
did, sorry. You know, I missed it, I haven't had one in 6 months, so I thought I'd slip one in while we weren't looking.
You all have a hard copy of the budget, and it was stated earlier, Mr. Blum has provided the detail. We will have this budget on the website tomorrow as the proposed city budget, as we always do, so people who wish to view it can do that, and the same with the detail information as well.
I just had one question. The Chapleton, Chapter 20, that 8 million is, does that fit into, did
it's-
you allow for increments for it? Because their budget is October to October.
Right.
How
Yeah,
did you work that out?
we don't have any plans for, or any, have they given you any estimates, the Public Works Office?
Actually, what, that's based on, well, first of all, this year, they put out it's really a 20-year capital plan, but it's front-loaded in the first 5 years. That did not come out until August of last year, August of 17, which was after we already set our budget. If you remember, in a couple meetings ago, we had a budget amendment that included about a $500,000 increase in the Chapter 20 expenditures. That was part of it. There's another, I want to say, hang on, there's another $900,000 increase for fiscal year 19 for the expenditure end of it, our portion, just our portion of it. What's happening is this year, if everything plays out as currently budgeted, the Chapter 20 drain debt fund will have an $800 deficit. We normally have been running about a $600,000 cushion just because of things the county likes to do and not tell us about. That will be completely gone at the end of this fiscal year. Plus, we have to make up the $900,000 additional increase. The current budget and the current millage proposed would build in a little over a $200,000 cushion to try to rebuild it. However, if they don't fix the reapportionment for the Martin Road retention basin, that $200,000 will be used up there, because there's so many plans for that, which we should be zero, and we're currently on the hook for a third of it. If they don't fix the apportionment, that'll be another $250,000.
30% of Martin Road is approximately how much?
Well, for fiscal year 19, it would cost us about another $225,000 to $250,000.
So another
It is
$250,000, and we've only been.
not
pushing.
currently budgeted, not factored in anywhere. The county promised a reapportionment October 1st of 17. It has not happened. And unfortunately, they can make us pay.
And we haven't heard anything back from them, right? Because I
Nope.
just brought that up again 2 weeks ago.
No,
All right.
not a word.
So, are we talking about, because I noticed on like page 55, that truth and taxation part, the debt retirement line that's on here is, because I noticed it went up 3.6 or something
Yeah,
mils.
the 4.55 up to 8.12. Yeah.
That's-
The Chapter 20 drain is considered a debt. The county generally bonds out all of their projects. And then the maintenance or the running of Chapleton itself, that's all falls under the Chapter 20 drain and is considered a debt millage, and you make the millage rate whatever it has to be to cover your cost. It's not affected by Headley rollbacks or anything like that. That's the distinction on the debt millage.
Okay.
But we have fiscal year 19, fiscal year 20, and fiscal year 21 will still be fairly high, and then it should start to tail off unless they find more things to do.
Is some of those Lake St. Clair Clean Water initiatives should be starting to peel off, aren't they?
The debt payments run out through 2031 on those.
But weren't they, well, I
Yeah.
can talk to you later about it.
Yep.
All right, so we would need a motion to receive and file,
Yes.
and to
And-
receive the,
And if you, in the set, do you want to do a separate motion for the dates?
no, we can add it on here.
Okay.
Were we saying just pushing a day back then?
Right, the 9th and 10th, is that all right? At 6:30? Okay with all council?
That's fine with me. Do we need to do a motion now, or, I mean, we need all the department heads here. I don't know if they were planning on being here.
On the 9th and 10th?
They'll be here.
Yes,
Then
we'll be
fine
here.
by me.
They'd like to all be here on the 9th and finish it that day.
Okay, yeah, Madam Mayor, I'll motion then to receive the acting city manager's proposed fiscal year 2018-2019 budget with budget work sessions for the following dates and times. Wednesday, May 9th at 6:30 PM and Thursday, May 10th at 6:30 PM.
We have
Second.
support.
Support. Okay.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
All right, that brings us to item E and F. So the first item is, topic is the interim city manager.
I don't mind just starting off, because I know I sent some information out to council. Out of the 4 listings that are on the MML website, one of them was a previous applicant that I personally don't have any interest in really discussing, so, and the other 3, 2 of them are previously engaged in employment at 2 other cities. So the only one that had a possible availability was Ryan Cotton, I believe. And from what I've seen, I would like to reach out and see if he has interest in coming to Eastpointe for an interim role.
And what would the length of time for an interim role be, do you think?
Well, ideally, just as long as we need to do a search and have a permanent city manager take over. I think we reach out, that's part of kind of having the discussions with him. How long is he willing to be available for? What his pay is, and what his schedule would be like. Because he is far away, he's not close by. So I'm comfortable with doing something like if he needs to work 3 or 4 days a week and then work remotely for the other 2 days, I'm fine with that. And hopefully, I'm hoping the rest of the council agrees with that. Because I think none of the candidates were close by, and I haven't found anyone or seen any candidates that are in the area right now.
So I would be interested to find out what his contract might be and for the length of it. And as I recall, Mr. Cotton teaches
Yeah.
a couple days a week. So I'm wondering whether the teaching is just during, the fall and spring term, which ends usually in April, and if he's free during the summer months.
I know he's teaching right now, and I think he's not available until May 1st.
Okay.
What if we put out for a couple weeks? We're looking to find additional candidates, or there was the one candidate that Mr. Fournier had recommended.
I would rather that person, I read the review, I talked to Mr. Fournier about her. I would rather she apply for the position if we go out for city manager.
I do want to throw this out there. I do not think the person who serves as interim, should be applying for the permanent position, because I think a benefit to bringing someone from the outside in, knowing it's a temporary job, is they can also run the search. I think we've been relying pretty heavily on Linda, and because there's no administrative decisions, just every 2 weeks we have to keep making little decisions to make it move at all. So
I think was it Bill Cousins, I think, had helped with the next search at his city.
Yeah,
I
he was
think, so-
managing it for the city, which I liked, but he's busy, so.
Right.
Now, what was your reasoning again for not having an interim person apply for a position that they've learned and not be able to apply for the job that they know about?
I would like, because I'd like them to conduct our search, and I think it creates a conflict of interest to have the person managing, I mean, Joe has not gotten involved in the search for that reason, which I think was appropriate. I want the next person we bring in, I'd like them to manage it to make sure it moves along quickly. I think we had a lot of stalls over in our last search process, and I think part of the reason for that is we didn't have someone who was really overseeing it as part of their job, so.
Oh, that's what the interim does? They oversee who we hire next?
I think we can set
I didn't
the
know that.
expectation for
Okay.
that. And I think normally they do help out with that because they're sort of removed from any of the interest tied to that job search.
Okay.
Now, would we try to figure out if the council likes then Mr. Cotton by the next meeting? Is that,
Well, I know that we have some things coming up, so I think if we want to do a special meeting, then I think we should probably schedule one pretty soon because I know the mayor has surgery coming up, and I don't want to kick the football too far down the field.
you also said he's not available till May 1st?
He's not available till May 1st, but we would have to reach out. We would have to say, yeah, we want you, and take all care of the administrative part of it before that.
We could always set up a Skype
Yeah,
interview.
because of how far it away is, there are two things. I think Skype is fine. I don't think we necessarily need to do an in-person interview. And the other is, I believe at his previous job, well, it might not have been him, but from what I saw, the other candidates, a lot of times they are week to week or month to month. So I feel pretty comfortable bringing someone in, because if there's any reason that it's not working out, we don't have really lengthy obligations, so.
Yeah.
I guess my confusion is coming from the interim manager helps us hire a new manager. Is that how that goes?
I just think we have to engage in another search.
Because I think after this whole line agenda, we're going into the discussion of a city manager. So that interim does that for us?
That would be my expectation, hiring an interim, that we say, now we can, whether or not we use a search, like a company to do the search or something like that, we still have to decide, but even so, I just want someone administratively overseeing that to make sure that it's actually moving along.
I just hate that we will hire an interim manager, then we would, on top of that, later on, still hire another, outside person to hire for us, like a lot of, money being spent for the interim. Then after we used him, we're gonna use a MML possibly.
Yeah.
And then we still have an acting city manager, then an assisting manager. It's like a lot of,
I think we don't necessarily have to go with the search company, but I think the interim, personally, I think we need one regardless of how we go forward with the search. I think I would not want to wait on that. I think we thought the search would conclude earlier, and so we have sort of an administrative setup that's lasted longer than expected. So I think it's a good idea to have an interim in the meantime.
So would you like to make a motion to that effect, that we select an interim city manager within the next period of time?
Should we try to set up a special meeting date to do that,
It's fine.
maybe even next week before our next
That's fine.
meeting? So we can get moving on it.
Next week, Tuesday? Is that a possibility?
I'm fine with that.
Yes, I'm fine with doing that. Did council want to try to set up a, like, Skype interview or phone interview or something like that? I personally, I think Cotton is a great candidate, and given if we can do like a agreement week to week or something like that, I would just go ahead and say, let's reach out and see what the terms would be.
Do you want to make the motion?
So on a week from
Today.
today, then
See if
try
we-
and Skype
you
with
can
them.
Skype with them that night, yeah.
We can always change it. We can set up a meeting, but I think you need a motion to go forward with the selection of an interim city manager.
How about,
The process, to establish the process to go out for it. What do you think, Mr. Albright?
Would advise doing that.
I'm not sure how we would set up a process. I mean, I think
You want to make a motion to go forward with the selection of an interim city manager?
oh, okay. So moved then, I can do that.
Support.
So moved. With a special meeting if necessary next week, Tuesday.
Yes.
Because he may want to come down here and interview us.
You may.
Madam Mayor, what time is that special meeting?
7.
Thank you.
And to be clear, I want to go with I think we should do the special meeting regardless, because then we could vote to employ him at the time. Maybe he can come and meet us, but if he's willing to enter into an agreement at that time, and we are too,
Correct.
we can take action still.
All right.
What day is this on,
Tuesday at 7 PM.
Okay.
Next Tuesday. All right, so we have a motion. Do we have support?
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
No.
All right, and item F is the city manager.
I wasn't sure how this was going to go when we put it on the agenda. I think maybe if we're meeting on Tuesday anyway, we should table it till then, because I think we have information on search companies and haven't had time to look at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cardi sent out some information that was like 36 pages,
You
like
didn't read that?
right before the meeting, yeah.
I
Or
sifted
a little
through it.
bit before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would want time to like look through that, see what different companies offer, and,
Yeah, I'd like to go back and review some of the placements as well.
all right.
If,
So you want to just table that, make a motion to table that issue?
Yep, I will make a motion to table until our meeting on Tuesday.
Do we have support?
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. The next item is payroll and bills. Do we have a motion, please?
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $1,959,031.18.
Support.
And, one quick question, was the, 116022, the, 14 laptops, are those the election laptops? The
Yes.
14? Those are, okay. Okay, that's all I had.
I had one question. The work boots for DPW and water, $2,000? How many work boots did they get?
They get one pair per year per contract. And they are pricey boots. They're steel-toed and,
Okay.
you know, all that. But yeah, they
So
get,
how
they get
many-
one per
how
year.
many-
We now have 10 laborers and 2 mechanics, so 12 people.
And these boots typically run $225 to $250.
Okay, thank you. All right. We have a motion and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens? Mayor Pixley?
Yes,
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
all right. We'll go for the hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard at this time? Mr. Creech?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. You're discussing the commissions, and the ones, is there any way that I know we've removed some, we've added some, Is there any way somebody could give the name of the commissions that are open right now? That need members?
We can't answer
I'm
your
just gonna say,
question
you know,
right now.
you ask for members, and ask for the people, you know, to come up and now, is there a recreation commission right now?
I can't answer your question at this time. When you're done, I can answer your
Okay,
question.
thank you, Madam Mayor, then. That's what I was just gonna say, because I know you're asking for the commissions themselves. And now, do we have a director yet for the DPW?
Again, I can't answer
Okay.
that question.
I understand. I guess I don't even answer them when I get done, because we went through this once before, too. And as I said, Madam Mayor, please, as I said our last time, there's no use us getting into somewhat of a backstabbing and name calling and the rest of the stuff. When you said this last time on our parks, when you reiterated, when you tried to say you worked on the football field, you know, you worked on the sound system, and you worked on this and you worked on that through the Recreation Committee. Well, right now, as I said, in 2014, I think is the last time we had a 5-year master plan for the Recreation Department. And we've got one coming up, and I would just like to know, and probably a lot of the residents, other residents would like to know, is who puts out this master plan, since we don't even have, and we haven't had a Recreation Committee for 5 years. We have one person that I said before too. Who do you really go to anymore to discuss anything on the recreation? We have RARE, and I said RARE is activities, and recreation, I do not know, and J.J. Mitch is supposed to be maintenance. And there again too, I would like to see a copy or have our city manager go through and exactly see what maintenance they do on our parks, except for cut our grass and keep the rest of it trimmed, because if you go over and look at the bleachers and look at some of the other things that, as far as I'm concerned, contains maintenance, they said that's not part of their contract. So it's time for somebody, I don't know who's going to be, like I said before too, somebody has to take responsibility for this. I keep asking, but I still don't get answers. Everybody, you know, we need somebody somewhere along the line that somebody can contact and find out what's going on a lot of these things. Because no matter what I do, I come up here and say it doesn't seem to go anywhere. You know, you had the meeting with the schools, and you talked and got a few things done, but that didn't take care of the buildings, that didn't take care of the fences, that didn't take care of our sidewalks, that didn't take care of a lot of things that I don't know when we're going to get answers for them. And yet the recreation and the parks do belong to the city. So I'd appreciate it, and along with all the rest of the residents, please help us out, give us some answers. And thank you, Madam Mayor, and especially on the commissions. I'd like to see more people come out too. Because the ZBA right now, if they don't get at least one more member, they can't even have a vote. Because it's down to 5, and if somebody doesn't show up, you need 4 to go through. And then by that time, you just might as well you got more commission there. And I don't know what you're going to do with the rest of them and the numbers. But please put it out there, because there was a gentleman that come in the office when I was there in Linda. He said he'd love to be on the Recreation Committee. I said, good luck. So would some other people probably, if they could get on there. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard?
I'm just going to be very brief. My name is Walt Martin.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you state your name?
I was going to say it. Walter Martin. I'm a resident of Eastpointe. I just want to be very brief, and I just heard what Mr. Kleinfeld said. And I'm just trying to get an understanding so I can monitor this process in terms of city manager. If I'm correct, you said you want to hire interim manager to oversee the process of hiring a city manager. And I'm just going to say this. You guys are more intelligent than what, and I believe very intelligent, but my whole issue is this. I monitor the process of the last person that you pushed to the front for the, for the candidate for the position. And one of the things I do, I'm a licensed private investigator, been doing it for 16 years. I do background checks. One of the things when I saw the candidate's name, I just did a Google search. Once I did the Google search, I said, man, this guy got all these check marks that really kind of raised a red flag. So my thing is this. If you made a mistake the first time, why do you want to allocate dollars now to hire somebody to oversee the process to hire a city manager? To me, it doesn't make sense. And I'm saying I'm a resident and I vote, and one thing I look at, I am going to monitor this process. To me, why you have to hire somebody? You got an acting city manager, Mr. Marucci, and I'm very impressed with his resume. To me, it doesn't make sense to spend money to hire somebody to watch over a process to hire a city manager. It doesn't make sense. That's just my comments and my belief.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, the second hearing of the public is closed, and we'll move on to mayor and council reports. Mr. Kleinfeld, we'll start with you tonight.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Martin, for your comments. What I said might have been a little unclear. Hiring an interim is something I think is necessary regardless of what we do regarding the search. That was just an additional thing that some interim city managers in other cities have taken on the responsibility of doing. Sort of like Councilwoman Owens mentioned, if we have someone that we think will do the search and we don't have to hire a third party to do like the background checks and things like that, we can kind of roll that into the job of city manager. But in terms of just hiring someone as an intern city manager, I think we need someone from outside the city to be our acting city manager going forward. So, and I think it would be helpful to have someone with fresh eyes, possibly while going into budget and making budget decisions for next year. That said, I know that our negotiations recently ceased with a previous candidate. Sometimes during contract negotiations, you learn that your expectations on both sides of the table are not meeting up, which is okay. So, you know, you just learn a lot about what the other party is going to expect during the process. And I did not think it would be wise for us to bring a candidate from across the country here with concern that it might not work out 3 months from now or 6 months from now. So I'm happy that we're going forward, and I just hope that we keep moving and quickly get some resolution on this. Lastly, I wanted to mention that Adopt a Flower Bed is on Saturday, April 7th at the Parks Maintenance Garage. It's hosted by JJ Mish. If you're someone who likes to volunteer in the community and you enjoy gardening, come out, see what beds are available. They'll put up a plaque with your name on it, and you can help decorate the city. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Lucido.
I just have a couple of small announcements to make this evening. First of all, the Earth Day cleanup is April 28th from 9 to 11 a.m. We're meeting at 8 Mile and Gratiot. Lunch will be provided afterwards at the Parks Garage on 10 Mile. Also, the Memorial Day Parades Committee is hosting a spaghetti fundraiser dinner Thursday, April 26th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Oddfellows Hall on Gratiot. And lastly, there will be an open yard day, May 19th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is for residents of the city, and that is located at the Department of Public Works on 10 Mile. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Owens.
I'm glad to see the same, guys come out every meeting, and then we have a new one. So keep coming out with your suggestions, because we love to hear what you have to say. Even if you're not able to come out, email us or give us a call and let us know some of the things that you want to see or some of the changes and things like that. So we appreciate you monitoring the things that go on in the city. That's what you pay taxes for. Also, just the other day, Monday, I was at the Cloverleaf. I had a coffee with the council, which I will be doing once every month. So at Cloverleaf, you can come sit and talk with me personally about some of your concerns, Mr. Creech. And before we get to council, I'll hopefully have some of those things fixed, so you won't even use up your whole 3 minutes. So, and so that'll give people some time to even get to know me more. And you can tell me some of the things that you used to see in Eastpointe that you would like to come back, and some of the things that you would like me to work on, and that give me the research and the papers that you have, and I can look through it and have more time to do that. So I'll be doing that coffee with the council once a month at Cloverleaf, and I'll also be doing some things with the seniors at Roseville Recreation Center, and it's going to be called Crafts with the Council. So they'll be doing a craft with me, talking to me about some of the things that they want to see and want to do, and they may want to volunteer, and so that might be the next ZBA volunteer, I don't know, but I just want to get more out into the community and see what's needed, and because we can't do it, it's only 5 of us, it's 35,000 residents, and so we need to hear what y'all need from us and want to see from us. So we appreciate you guys coming out. Go ahead, Mr. DeMonico.
Mr. DeMonico.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, Mr. Martin, thank you for those comments. I definitely am doing my Googling, and I've highly suggested it to everyone. I take the whole process very seriously, and doing as much research as possible into the candidates also. Mr. Creech, we have no DPW director right now. And the boards and commissions that we do have, so that everyone else can also hear them. Like you said, this is probably something good Mr. Marucci brought up, joining commissions earlier. So we have the Assessment Board of Review that deals with property tax exemptions, that sort of thing. There's the Beautification Commission. I'm a little partial to that one, and you guys, thank you for mentioning some Beautification Commission events, which does have one opening. There's one opening in beautification, one opening as an alternate, I believe, on the Assessment Board of Review. There's the Civil Service Board. It's only 3 members. That's full right now. The Downtown Development Authority, which is also full. Come check that out. Actually, we'll have a meeting at 4 o'clock on the same day we just scheduled that meeting, next week. So next Tuesday, 4 o'clock meeting for the Downtown Development Authority. There's the Housing Commission, Library Commission, the Local Officers Compensation Commission. I see at least one member in the audience from that commission. The Planning Commission, rare, as Mr. Creech talks about, and the Zoning Board of Appeals, which apparently, according to my list, has a few more vacancies than I was aware. We do need members for that. Like Mr. Creech said, you do need, if a member of the public wants an exception to an ordinance, they do need 4 affirmative votes, even if there's only 5 members. It's not just a majority vote. And also, we're going to soon start the Arts, Culture, and Diversity Commission. And then, as you said, we've got a lot going on, Mr. Creech. I'd like to also start up the Parks and Rec Commission again, so that we can have more of an idea engine, not just rare, where they kind of handle the the administration of all the Parks and Rec things that go on in Eastpointe and, of course, Roseville. So we've got a lot going on, but I would like to definitely see that. So keep all those folks in mind that you have that'll be on that commission. And then, just again, the Adopt a Flower Bed kickoff noon, April 7th at the Parks Garage, as Mr. Kleinfeld said, and then as Ms. Lucido said, I guess is my Earth Day birthday, I guess is what I could call it too. It's April 28th. It's my birthday, so you better be there if I'm going to be there. And that's 9 to 11 a.m. We're going to meet at 8 in Gratiot in that northeast area there. You'll see a whole bunch of cars. You'll see us. And so 9 to 11 a.m. And then thanks, everyone, for taking part in my April Fool's posts on Facebook, if any of you saw those. That's all I had, Madam Mayor.
Everybody saw that. I did have Mr. Creech, I told you I would answer these questions, but Mr. DeMonico did tell you that we currently do not have a DBW director, and we also have a posting out for public safety director, as well as the city manager. Roseville Recreation Center, I did check with our order of organization for RARE, and it did say that each Roseville and Eastpointe would have 2 representatives, and the 5th representative would be determined by the group. So if the group decided that a Roseville representative was key at that time, then I guess that's okay, because they were following the rules that were set up with the organization. I could not find, I know there was discussion that it would alternate between Eastpointe and Roseville, but I couldn't find anything to substantiate that. So I don't know whether that rule was changed after that or what happened. And the group as a whole determines who's going to be chair and who's not going to be chair. So Mr. Duchesne was chair for a year, and then that's altered now, and I think Scott, right, is now the current chair of that group. But we do have representation. just as we have Sarisa for our central dispatching, and we have representatives from St. Clair Shores, Eastpointe, and Roseville. So the other groups, we did talk, Mr. Marucci and I, as Mr. Marucci said at the last meeting, we did go over, we met with Scott about how they run their Parks and Rec Commission in addition to having a representative on RARE. So we have that all set and ready to go. We were just kind of waiting till we could get some of the other commissions filled before we go out and ask for representatives as well. And yes, we know that our parks are in need of help, but there are times, and not too long ago, when we had to decide what it was that we wanted most. Did we want police? Did we want fire? Did we want ambulance service? Did we want Chapter 20? You want your sewers to flush? You want your water to go on? All those things took up a great portion of the money that we had available at that time. And now that we're a little bit more solvent, we can go back and do some of those things. So primary to us is working on Memorial Field and on our parks. But if you looked at this, there is a bill in here for supplying some porta potties for some of our parks. So we are working on those things. And I don't have anything else. Everybody else has said, Mr. DeMonico, you might look at the Facebook posting for your cleanup, because it has people, it has a star for people to meet on 8 Mile Road at the former community center rather than at the Burger King, even though your flyer says meet at the parking lot by Burger King.
It was just on the south, that empty parking lot.
I know
area
that's
in the
where you
corner.
said in the flyer, but where it is in the Facebook posting, it has it on, further on 8 Mile Road, further east on 8 Mile Road.
Oh, okay.
So it just takes Bill to switch that star.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And I think that's all I have for now, so I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to go into closed session regarding attorney-client privilege communication regarding the DOJ pending litigation.
Support.
Move support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
So we will be in closed session.